Welcome to this podcast, Paddle and Flow. My name is Alex. I'm a kayak fisherman mostly, although recently I've been tempted into other forms of kayaking. And I'm here with Nicola. Do you want to introduce yourself, Nicola?
I am Nicola and I am not a kayak fisher person. And I paddle the kayaks that you usually don't paddle.
That's a fair statement. Yeah. How long have you been paddling for, Nicola?
Since I was 13.
Since you were 13.
Which is 36 and 3/4 years. Maybe a quarter.
36 and 3/4 years.
But I did have a break.
Okay.
When I had my children and lived in England where it's harder to paddle. So I had I did have the number of days and months counted was about 7.5 years off.
7.5 years off the water.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And we've decided to start a podcast because we've been paddling together recently, either me and my sit on top, or when I borrowed your lovely blue lobster, a P&H Virgo. I've also got another boat that I'm practicing in, and we've been paddling and we've been chatting, and I thought, right, let's start a podcast because your stories are brilliant and I talk nonsense.
Bullied into it.
Bullied into it. Yeah, that's fair.
Bullied into it.
I bribed you
out of my comfort zone.
That's how we grow, Nicola.
Yes.
Bribed with hot chocolate.
Absolutely. Good hot chocolate, though.
Yeah.
It's very good hot chocolate.
I'm pleased you're enjoying it because I drank mine before we even started. I was supposed to have it here. But anyway, so I've got a few topics. We went out for a kayak the other day to try and break the ice on the podcast. We mic'd you up while we went paddling, and we got some brilliant chat, actually. And one of the big things you and I were talking about is sort of how you set up a kayak. I obviously sit on top. I know where to put my feet. I've got my feet pedals, but I don't have hip pads. And most of my time on my sit on top is spent fishing, so I'm normally sat out quite relaxed. I do a lot of drifting. I don't actually do that much paddling. And when I need to control the boat, it's mostly in a little bit of swell. I'm not sort of adventuring around different gullies and gorges, and I'm certainly not throwing myself down rivers. When you're setting up a kayak, Nicola, how do you set your kayak up?
I would just like to correct you one point about gullies.
Go on.
I do think that you have been lured down the occasional gully, sometimes successfully, but one time not. How do I set up my kayak?
Yeah.
So I'm comfy. Might sound a bit stupid, but actually the P&H Virgo is a kayak that people struggle to get comfy in. Yeah. It tends to be an issue that people have their legs, feet, backsides falling asleep. I mean, I came from paddling, started off in slalom. So slalom boats are very, it's part of you. You move, the boat moves. Then moved on to whitewater, a little tiny short play boat, a bit like your yellow blade. Yeah,
it's Piranha Blade. Yeah, my little yellow boat's Piranha Blade.
And now with sea kayaking, the Virgo I find quite big. The cockpit's quite big. When I bought mine, there was no LV, HV version. It was just the Virgo. It was an MV. How do I set it up? I like to be fairly snug in my boat. Mm-hmm. So I have the footrests. So 9 times out of 10, I can do a paddle and my feet don't fall asleep. But sometimes, on a longer paddle, they will start to go numb and fall asleep.
Is that because of the pressure on your bottom, or is it just the pressure on your feet? Do you think is it because you're jammed into that boat? Not like jammed, but you've got a bit of space, or?
I think it's the seat.
The seat
cuts into the back of my legs and switches off your legs. Circulation.
From your popliteal artery.
Oh,
your femoral or popliteal artery, just in case you want to know.
Yeah.
Or it could not be an artery. It could be your sciatic nerve, because it's probably the sciatic nerve.
Oh, it could be.
From your bum.
Yeah, because I had sciatic pain earlier in the year, which has now actually disappeared completely.
Oh, good.
Don't know what. Anyway, that's by the by. Then the next thing I suppose is hip pads. Mm-hmm. I do find when I'm rolling the Virgo that I slide.
Interesting.
Out of the seat. I'm not. I'd hark back to the olden days when I was in my slalom boat. I never slid. You're part that I either slid out because I was going to swim, or fought my way out of it. But the Virgo, every time I come up from a roll, I have slid. So I'm still experimenting actually with the setup. Mm-hmm. So I don't feel like I'm qualified really to answer that question. How do I sit on my kayak? I'm still doing it.
You're still doing it, and that's what's
Yeah.
important, isn't it? It's important that you're comfortable. You're right, it's being comfortable. So when I paddled your boat, I was paddling your Virgo because I'm thinking about buying an MV Virgo. So in my fleet, I suppose, I've got my sit on top fishing kayak. I have a tandem sit on top fishing kayak, but we'll not talk about that. I've got my Piranha Blade, which is my whitewater boat that I've got for a long film mission that I'm working on at the moment to paddle the length of the Tyne. And I need to get a bit more comfortable in it because it's so different to what I'm used to. I used to paddle on whitewater when I was sort of 12, which was a while ago.
How long ago was that, Alex?
How long ago was that? It was 24 years ago.
Right.
So I've been alive the same amount of time that you've been paddling, plus a year. Because I'm actually only 35.
So when did you start?
When did I start? When I first paddled a kayak when I was living in Wales. So I moved to Wales when I was 11. Although I consider myself Welsh, I did only actually move to Wales when I was 11. And I lived just outside Aberystwyth. And there is some legendary paddles in that area, as you may be aware. All of them currently escape me just now. But yeah, there's some brilliant paddling in that area. And I sort of learned to paddle the whitewater boat then. And then moved to Scotland when I was 16 and didn't get in a kayak until, probably for nearly another, at least 15 years. So my wife started paddling just before COVID. She started learning how to whitewater paddle because she wanted to do something different. I started kayak fishing because I love fishing. I fished all my days and I just really wanted to catch fish on a kayak. It looked really cool. I was watching some YouTubers, Rocket and Robert Field are the two main ones, and I thought this looks great. So I went out and bought a river kayak, fishing kayak, and then I've just kind of been addicted.
Yeah.
Since.
And now you've started collecting.
And I've started collecting kayaks.
That's what happens.
So yeah, so I've got and then we've got the blade, the sit on top, and the tandem, and then my wife has an LV Virgo, which was bought on your recommendation.
Commission. I should get commission.
Yeah, you should absolutely get commission on the LV Virgo purchase. You came with me to pick it up. I bought you lunch.
Quite right.
All you did was come and help me lift it onto my roof.
No, you made me walk into a kayak shop and not buy anything.
Yeah, that was the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my fleet. And when I found that when I was setting up your boat, that my foot started to go numb and I lost my shoe.
You did lose your shoe?
How jammed my foot was. When I went to edge one of the directions as we were going into a gully, I ended up rolling off the end of my shoe. So I had to, I wasn't wearing very good shoes, it has to be said.
I'm still not clear how you lost your shoe doing that, but...
I had terrible terrible slip-on shoes on.
Slip-on shoes.
I had slip-on shoes. I just picked up some waterproof shoes.
Right.
Cheapy ones, because I knew I was inside the boat. See, on my sit on top, I layer up so much because I get wet because I'm exposed, as it were. Whereas, as you said, in snug in the cockpit of that boat, I was quite comfortable wearing just slip-on wet shoes because I had waterproof socks on, so my feet were going to be warm. And I went to take my foot off the pedal because my bum was going numb and my leg was going a bit numb, and because I hadn't set the pedals up properly, I had them a little bit too far away. No, sorry, a little bit too close, and I needed to move them far away, and I rolled my foot off.
But that's an interesting point you have raised. You still need to be prepared for being out of the boat. So if you had to come out of your boat, you dress as if you're on your sit-on top for eventualities that you may not foresee.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
You don't want to part company with your shoes if you were to have an incident where you came out your boat.
Yeah, that's true.
So
if I'd come out your boat when we were out together, then I would like to think my shoes would have stayed on. I was quite surprised that I managed to roll them off, if I'm honest.
I have to see this. You'll have to show us next time we go out
I'll show you what shoes I was wearing.
With your foot.
I wasn't wearing proper wetsuit boots. That was the key.
Right.
Because my proper wetsuit boots were soaking wet because I'd left them out in the rain. I really didn't fancy wearing proper wetsuit shoes.
No, that's a horrible thing.
And I would have been warm. I'd have been warm. I just would have been wet. I'd have been wet and warm rather than dry and warm. That's
snug.
That's a conversation for another day. What clothing to wear? I'm going to write that down. My riverboat, I find that I have to actually jam myself in. Like I wonder if my riverboat's probably the wrong size. It's probably just a little bit small because I actually have to push my left leg under the knee pad. I can't actually get my leg into the knee pad without sort of assisting it
Is that to do with hip flexibility, do you think?
Probably hip flexibility and where my feet are, like on the pedals, but my pedals are as far back as they can go.
Oh, right, okay.
I could maybe knock them back one more click, but then I wouldn't be in contact with them when I've got my hips engaged in the boat.
Right. It does look a little bit like it's edging towards being a submarine. Maybe.
What, under the water?
Yeah, maybe like it is maybe a bit small for you. I don't.
Yeah.
Is there a bigger blade?
No.
No.
And certainly not at the cost I paid for it.
Yes, that's
it was
true. It was a bargain.
An absolute bargain from a kayak club that was selling it off because they bought some new boats. University Kayak Club. So it's been well used. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I paid, what I've paid for is what I've got. I only paid 100 quid for it, and I've got a really good boat, but it does have some issues. Frodo's just coming up to sit next to Nicola.
You couldn't be my moral support, Frodo.
So I think you're still working on your hip pads. Do we want to ask about the? Do you want to tell the world about what happened with your Scorpio hip pads?
Oh,
you
the thigh
recovered from that
grips.
trauma from your thigh grips? Yeah.
No, I haven't. So I could start with my fleet.
Yeah, go for your fleet. Yeah,
Right.
let's do your fleet because you've got Scorpio and everything. Yeah, go for it.
So my current fleet is a very old, a 1998 full carbon slalom boat, double
10.
Dutch. Hey,
was
you were
10.
10. Okay. Which was a sample that I was persuaded to buy, so I still have that in my garden, and a little Eskimo's Voe playboat, which is a relic. Again, should be in a museum. Is
Double Dutch carbon fibre
slalom boat. And now it's extinct. It's a 4-meter slalom boat, so they use 3.5 meters now. So it's
Okay.
worth nothing, which is why I keep it.
So Jess Fox will be in a much smaller boat.
Yeah, they're easier to turn.
Easier to turn, makes sense.
Yeah. The Eskimo's Voe playboat, which is 9 foot long, tiny wee thing, brilliant boat.
That blue?
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Seen
And
one of
then
your children out in it.
the next one was the P&H Virgo. Lobster.
Oh yes, Lobster. What are the other names of the other two?
The carbon boat is Cloud, because clouds bring rain. Rain makes the rivers go up.
I like it.
And the little blue one is called, I was going through a sort of very spiritual time. It's called Rinpoche, which means precious one.
Yeah, good.
Lobster. And the P&H Scorpio is sea pink.
Sea pink, and it is
Pink.
bright pink. Yeah, very
It's
pink.
pink.
Your Scorpio. We started talking about your fleet, and you had some issues with your Scorpio hip pads. Tell me about them.
Yes. Basically, I needed to move the hip pad, the thigh grips, closer. Not the hip pad, the thigh grips.
Thigh grips, not hip pads, sorry.
Closer. I hadn't paddled the Scorpio since June this year, for reasons of having frozen shoulder. And I came to move them closer and did one side, no problem. Second side, the bolt had seized. Mm-hmm. So various people suggested squirting WD-40 on the bolt, leaving overnight. Did that. I think I probably used about a tin of WD-40. Made no difference. So I enlisted my dad.
It was very handy.
Who's brilliant. Yeah, he has rebuilt cars, so he knows, he's my go-to for pretty much everything. To come and help with the bolt, and he ended up having to drill it out, which I have to say was quite traumatic.
Yeah, it looked traumatic when I arrived.
And then, we had to call you for backup because my dad's drill ran out of battery, because stainless steel bolt was, as many people said afterwards, that would have been a bugger to remove.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, it was.
When I came round, I've actually fallen down the stairs and hurt my back. So I couldn't even help. I couldn't bend. I couldn't do anything to actually help you. And I remember coming along just as you'd had the melting incident, where the bolt had heated up and had melted just a little dent. You tied it. I think you must have tied it up by the time I arrived because it looked quite good. But you did have a Stanley knife, which
I have a little scrap of molten pink plastic on my kitchen table as a souvenir, basically. Yeah, that I should have done a bit of research on that. I hadn't realised
quite how it was going to heat up.
Hot.
And
I've never drilled out a bolt before, so this was a brand new experience for me, and I hadn't realised it would heat and then melt.
But when we got the bolt out, do you know, when we looked at the pad, and I don't have a picture of it, unfortunately, but when we looked at the bolt and the way that it was designed, it really was seized. I mean, you weren't going to get that off in a hurry.
Yeah.
The only thing I could think of was a bit of acid and like melt it and try and get the corrosion off with a bit of like lemon juice or vinegar or something and soak it in vinegar. But even soaking it in vinegar, you'd have had to have found a way to get the vinegar in to soak it, which, given the fact that it's in an upright cat, it's not going to work, is it?
Yeah, no.
Just the dimensions of it. So
I will shoot you over a photo of the bolt. You can
I can cut in here
it in.
for those watching, and then if you're listening,
I mean,
you'll have to come and find it on the YouTube channel, Paddle and Flow.
it's rinsed after every trip and dried, so it just
You look after your kayaks really well.
Does that? I don't like to scratch them.
No, you don't like to scratch them. You look after them. You rinse them every single trip. Everything gets soaked with water, fresh water. I'm not quite as diligent as you. I do still rinse mine. I just am not as diligent as you. And my wheels, my Sea-Tug wheels have never been apart. And I actually don't think they come apart now because there's so much soap on them.
I always take the wheels off, but I don't break that axle part.
I don't even take the wheels off.
Because that's just okay.
Like I said, you look after your kit. So to have that happen to the bolt was pretty serious. But you've got it all working now.
But I think it's in the right place now. Yeah, I actually think it's still, when I first got into it at the weekend there, I was thinking, no, there's still something funny here, but I think it's just all in my head.
So you paddled now with the new thigh grips? Yes.
In their new position.
In their new position.
Hip pads are back in, and she's comfy.
She's comfy.
So I finally made my peace with the Scorpio, because I got her in February 2023.
Yep.
Like you said, I probably only paddled her between 5 and 10 times in that time because of my shoulder. And I finally made peace, because I spent the last however many months thinking, I'm just going to sell her. You know. No, she's staying. Yeah.
So you've got that'll give you your fleet, your sea fleet.
Yes.
And the Virgo and the Scorpio.
Always space for another one.
So why did you buy the Scorpio when you had the Virgo?
Because it was pink. Right. No.
I know that's the answer, but what's the real answer?
The real answer is, when I bought the Virgo, I only expected to have it for a year and then I'd upgrade. I bought the Virgo because it was short, so easy to handle on and off the water, easy to store, and plastic is good for around here because it's very rocky. And there was another reason, can't remember what the other reason was. Anyway, but so the plan was to upgrade, but I decided actually it still does everything I need it to do, so I'm not going to upgrade. But I would like the Scorpio, being nearly an extra 3 feet longer, 2 feet 8 longer, should be faster, slightly narrower, not much. So the idea was they complement each other. So that Scorpio came up in the sale, and it was too good a deal, and it was pink. Yeah.
So you've got P&H Virgo for shorter trips, more locally, and then you can do a bit more surfing, yeah, and then you can do a bit more longer journeys in the Scorpio.
That's the Scorpio is a future boat. It's for when I can get off and maybe do some expeditioning.
Okay. Where would you like to expedition?
Where would I like to expedition? In Scotland, it would have to be, over on the west coast, because that's where everybody goes.
I had that conversation another time.
Yeah. Lots of places. Yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to be brave enough to paddle right around Scotland, but who knows? I don't know if I am.
Major.
Yeah.
Nicola, Ocean Advocate. I can see that.
How do I get that label?
Advocate for the ocean. Paddle around Scotland. There we are. I'll sort you out. So you've got the Virgo and the Scorpio, and the Virgo's for more surfing and playing, because I was looking at buying a hammer. That's what I would like.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like a P&H hammer, which is a playboat, a perfect playboat for surfing, for these conditions around here. So we live on the east coast of Scotland. We've got lots of rocks. We've got lots of shingle beaches. We've got beaches that are covered in sharp, jaggy bits, but we also have some very good swell. And I really wanted a P&H hammer, but they don't make it anymore.
No, they don't.
Do keep an eye out on on eBay and Facebook Marketplace, but I think I'm going to get the Virgo, which is the replacement, but mine will obviously be orange, not blue, because I don't think we can have 4 blue kayaks in our paddling group.
Is that the only reason why you're not going to get blue?
No, I prefer orange, to be fair. But I would get it in orange and blue if I could, like half and half, like split down the middle.
You could have a custom one.
I could have a custom one.
You could ask.
I could ask them to make me a custom.
They did a custom for the Ukraine when they were raising money for the Ukraine fund.
Yeah. I think Ukraine is a bit more important than some random YouTuber who wants to buy a kayak.
I'd ask the question if you want a multicoloured. It would look like one of those fruit salad shoes sort of thing.
Yeah, it would. Well, blue and
maybe
orange,
not blue.
though, not
yeah,
pink and,
yeah.
Kind of like
Pink
baby
and-
pink, isn't it? An orange fruit salad.
Yeah.
Could have it like a blackjack, like blue and black.
Are they not just black, like sort of a dull grey sort
Oh
of?
yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more like licorice all sort, like the blue licorice all sorts. When you cut them in half.
That's actually what colour the Virgo is. Blue licorice all
It is,
sort.
isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, no, I would have it orange and blue with a stripe, but no, I would just get an orange one because we can't have 4 blue Virgos in our paddling group because as you have a blue Virgo, my wife has a blue Virgo. Russell, who we paddle with, bought a blue Virgo because you had a blue Virgo. Well, I don't know why he bought it in blue, but he bought a Virgo because you have a Virgo. Because he was going to get Stratos.
Commission. I talked him out of it.
You did. Don't get a dagger. Stratos. Get a P&H Virgo. That's what you said.
Oh, I think all I said was when I was going to buy my Virgo, it was between the Dagger Stratos, the Wavesport Hydra, and the P&H Virgo. And I did quite a lot of research and ended up with the Virgo.
And he test paddled the Dagger Stratos. And he test paddled the Virgo.
Right.
And he definitely preferred.
Did he?
Well, that's why I bought the Virgo.
Yeah.
It did also help that it was on a massive sale. An ex-demo version from Port Edgar Water Sports. So he did buy
It's a nice boat.
Yeah.
He's got the posh one.
He's got the posh one, he's got the Coralite. Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have a compass.
No, but
And you do.
he could fit that.
You could fit the compass.
Could retrospectively fit
We'll
it.
tell him.
That's what I did with mine. Mine didn't come with a compass.
Did you not? And you registered for it. Russell,
Yeah, friend
when you're watching
helped.
this, because if we're going to get one view, we know that Russell will watch it. Russell,
Fit
the compass.
It looks good. So what are you going to call your orange Virgo?
The orange Virgo. I don't name my boats. My boats don't have names.
Why?
Why do they need to have names, Nicola?
Why do they need to have names? Because they're... Why do you...
Why do I call the dog Frodo? You're pointing at the dog.
Because they're like they're my companion on the water. You know, my
Sold.
boat has to listen to so much from me, you know? It deserves a name.
I have a brilliant clip of you talking to your pink kayak surfing, and you're like, Pink, why won't you turn? No, don't go that way, you're going squint.
It's true. They don't always listen, but I just think that my kits always had names. You know, from the very first kayak that I paddled with 4th Canoe Club.
Really?
Yeah, Winston.
Winston.
No
can
idea.
remember, yeah.
And the other one was Jemima, me and my friend. We had the 2 old Scott Ramage boats and Winston and Jemima. And then my first very own boat was called Gillian. I can't actually disclose why.
You've called it Gillian.
Yeah. And it just went from there, you know?
Whereas for my boats, so I've got Fortress. I mean, we call the big boat the Fortress, don't we? That's its name because it's super safe on the water. It's not going to capsize when it's rough.
And it's
huge. Prominent.
Prominent.
It's prominent. Does stick me up quite a lot in the water.
Has its own postcode.
It's a Galaxy kayak. It's a Galaxy Sturgeon. It's 15 foot sit on top. 14 foot sit on top. It is pretty big. Yeah.
How wide is it?
I don't know. I've never measured it. And I can't remember it off the top of my head. I mean, I could look it up, but it's definitely. I would say it's 1.5 the Virgo, at least, if not 2 times the width of the Virgo, and it's so stable.
And it's amazing you can do anything in it. Actually, to be honest, you know, you talk about edging and whatnot in your fishing kayak, and I kind of look at you and think, oh, bless.
Yeah.
Because it's such a hulk to try and, you know, good on you for even trying. So.
And we have managed to edge a little, but you have taken me on a few little cove hunting missions around the sort of rocks at the base of the castle at Dunbar, and we've gone in and out of a few fairly interesting. The seal pool, as you like to call it, or long craigs, as its proper name.
That begins with a C.
The craigs, the cages.
Cages, yeah.
Yeah, the cage.
I will learn.
The cage, and then you've got the long craigs. But with a seal pool works. It's where all the seals are. Exactly. But yeah, I've definitely managed to edge it through there, and I've we've done a bit of surfing in it, and I've managed to manoeuvre the boat. But it is hulk. It is a big piece of kit. It's a heavy boat to move around, and it doesn't turn very well. But when it's rough and choppy, pretty safe.
Yeah.
And a fish. I had a seal grab my line, and it's not going to pull me in because the boat's so long and so stable. As long as you're fighting the fish to the front of the boat, or in that case, when the seal grabbed it, it did kind of give me a bit of surprise. But I'm not gonna tip in. So that's the fortress, and then I suppose the blade. Well, I call it the blade because that's its name. That's what it does. It is the blade, the piranha blade. The yellow boat, I call it sometimes. It doesn't have a name. The orange boat will be the orange boat, and Nikki's boat is Nikki's boat. I don't name my kayaks. I might have to think of some creative names. Think of something creative.
You don't have to. I mean, there are people, Some people do name their kayaks, and others just think you're completely bonkers for even thinking about it. No, they're not. They're just inanimate objects, But
it all depends on your relationship with them, doesn't it? I mean, I don't name my camera.
I haven't named my camera, actually.
Because it's definitely my companion. I do take my camera with me everywhere, but
yeah.
But would I name the kayak? Maybe. I'd have to give it a name from Lord of the Rings, though, because everything in my life is named from things from Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
I'd have to call it Sauron because it's orange. Lord of the Rings.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. So that's our boats, really, isn't it, Nicola? I think that's us. I think we're there. We've covered everything. The only thing we've not talked about, we talked about on the water the other day, was we were talking about how some kayakers have their feet in the middle and actually don't sort of get that froggy leg shape, because that's kind of the shape that we're looking for, isn't it, when we're in a kayak, is that frog legs. And you were talking to me about Douglas Wilcox, who is a renowned P&H paddler. He's
a long-time paddler, got loads of experience in lots of different types of kayak, paddle boards. He's a windsurfer. I think he's predominantly a windsurfer who kayaks. I've never met him. I'd like to paddle with him at one point. But what happens with whitewater paddlers who can't go into the sea, whitewater paddlers are used to being jammed in their boats, like the boat's an extension of you. Whereas on the sea, well, if you think about people in a surf ski, they sit with their knees together, bent in the middle of the boat. They're not jammed into anything. So there's, in sea kayaking, it's about being loose in the boat and letting the boat kind of move around you and, not being jammed in.
Yeah.
And I think I go between, there'll be times I'm paddling and I want to have my legs, my knees, and I want to be wedged because it's maybe a bit wavy or whatever. And then there are times that I sit with my knees in the middle.
Yeah, and I think for me, when I was out with you, we had that moment where it was getting quite big. And there was some quite steep waves, which we'll talk about in the next episode. That's the plan for the next episode, is to talk about waves and wind. But when we were out the other day, the waves got quite steep, and I really wanted to be tight in there. I felt like I needed to be tight.
Yeah.
But I can totally appreciate how if we're just sort of straight line paddling and we're not, moving through lots of coves and edging, then we do have a bit more space. As my 3-year-old has come to get involved in the episode. He's already been involved, but I've probably cut that out. And and that's what I find, is that I need a bit more, I like being in contact with the boat. And on the sit on top, obviously, I'm trying to edge, and we've touched on this already, I'm trying to edge the sit on top, but it's such a beast that I'm not able to move it around as much. So it's interesting to hear that. And you're right, surf skiers, they have their knees up in the middle, but surf skis are so unstable that it's important that they have that stability. Just been given a brush. I'm not entirely sure.
It's a hint,
Alex. What I need to do with that. Brush my hair. I don't think it's going to work on my hair. And I think, one of my purchases in the future is probably going to be a surf ski fishing kayak.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's maybe a conversation for the future.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to add, Nicola?
No.
On that note, then we will end the episode, since the child has come to bring us things. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Paddle and Flow. If you have enjoyed our rambles and our chat, please give it a like and a comment. If you're watching or listening on our another podcasting service, please follow us on YouTube at Paddle and Flow. And thank you very much. Oh, and follow my YouTube channel, East Lothian Kayak Fishing, because I obviously have a YouTube channel as well for kayak fishing. But this is a conversation, and thank you very much for watching, and we'll join you on the next episode.